Hi, this is Jane with GreenBiz. Today we're going to be talking about what's wrong with my apple tree. A lot of people around here like to have apple trees because, well, they like the fruit. It's good for, fresh eating, pies, all kinds of stuff. Do you like apples? Do you have an apple tree? Well, if you do, you should probably listen to this. What I am saying, the information that I'm giving, will also apply not only to your apple tree, but it will apply to other fruit trees as well. There's lots of different kinds of apple trees. And I will tell you up front, there are some apple trees that are more prone to diseases than others. But no matter what kind of an apple tree or other fruit tree that you have, you always need to be aware that they can be susceptible to different things. They can be susceptible to different insects that can harm the fruit. We're going to focus on just a few diseases that are not necessarily prevalent, but are very hurtful to your apple tree. The first one I'm going to talk about is fire blight. Fire blight, in the end, is a deadly disease if your tree has it. Fire blight is caused by a bacteria which gets into the tree. It is caused by, now I'm going to try this, Erwinia amylivora. Okay, Latin is not my second language or my first language. The blossoms and what's called terminal twigs, which are the twigs at the end of the branch, and sometimes the whole limbs will start to turn brown and the leaves will get actually crunchy. Like you can just crumble them. Fire blight, as I said, once it gets into your tree, can be deadly. Now, there are some things that you can do to help prevent it, and once you get it, you can kind of prolong the life of the tree for a while. So I have some products that I'm going to talk about. You've heard that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we have a product here, and it is specifically for fire blight. It's a spray. It's a powder. You mix it up in water. You would spray this early in the season, before the leaves and the flowers are all blooming and everything. Always follow your directions. What this will do is, if you have fire blight, it will help to postpone the bad symptoms of it. If you don't have fire blight, it will prevent it. Environmental issues that encourage fire blight would be things like moisture during the bloom time, temperatures that are above 60, lots of rain, insects, life in general can encourage it. What you're going to look for, as I mentioned, you'll get these brown branches. It will be wilting, your leaves are going to be wilting. Also, another thing that you might notice in the spring is some oozing cankers. That means that literally you touch this stuff and it's just kind of gooey. I don't know how else to explain it. Oozing. It's just not right. As I said, you can try to prevent it. Very possibly can. If you have fire blight, or if you have any other kind of the diseases that I'm going to be talking about, it's very important that you get rid of that branch, those leaves. You're going to cut them back. So if you have fire blight on, say, like the tip of your branch, you're going to go back a long ways, probably even up to 12 inches. You're going to make a cut into the new wood, the clean wood that does not have any problem with it. The other thing that you're going to do is to throw that stuff away. You don't want to recycle, you don't want to compost anything that has any kind of disease properties in it. Another thing that you can do is to spray. There are some sprays that will help to, besides the one I talked about, there are some sprays that will help to keep fire blight at bay. After you make a clean cut, always watch your tree to make sure that it isn't occurring somewhere else. Always make sure that any tools that you're using with any kind of diseased product are clean in between cuts and in between trees. So fire blight is like the worst thing that can happen. There's other things that can happen with your trees too. Sorry guys, it isn't just a walk in the park, but it's worth it in the end. Another thing that can attack your apple trees, and again, your other fruit trees, is a powdery mildew. Powdery mildew appears as a light film on your leaves, and it can be wiped off, but it doesn't really stay off. You can spray it with, let me see, I have here, something like a fungicide, and that will help to keep it at bay. If you have a powdery mildew, it's not going to kill the powdery mildew, those sprays won't, but at least it keeps it from getting worse. Powdery mildews can occur due to moisture, humidity. Not a whole lot you can do about the weather. If you are actually watering your trees, try to water them from underneath, down at the base and not up on top on the leaves. But again, if it's raining, if it's humid, there's not a whole lot you can do to prevent it, keep it from coming. Powdery mildew or any of these other type of fungal diseases such as white rot, black rot, bitter rot, and etc. All of them are fungal diseases. All of them can be spread through the wind, through insects. What happens is that like your leaf drop will happen. You'll have your leaves on the ground. If you don't clean them up at the beginning of fall, if you don't clean them up so that they're gone over the winter, that fungus can just sit there in the ground, and then come spring, whoop, all those spores come up, and now they're going to be affecting your trees. So clean up in the fall or in between whenever you're doing your pruning. Make sure you clean things up. My mother always taught, cleanliness is next to godliness. And so I remember that all the time. Not only do I want to keep a clean life and a clean house, I want to keep a clean garden. And it will prevent a whole lot of problems in the future. Another thing that can affect your apple trees is the Ambrosia beetle. Now the Ambrosia beetle doesn't affect the leaves up here, it actually affects the trunk. And the Ambrosia beetle will bore into the trunk of the tree. I've seen where the trunk of a tree will have several little tiny holes that are bored into it. That's the beetle. Now, it isn't the beetle that causes the problem, well it is, but it's the fungus that is on the beetle that then affects the tree. In order to prevent the Ambrosia beetle from boring, you need to treat your tree with a pyrethrin. That is a particular kind of chemical. It will prevent the beetle from getting into the tree. Unfortunately, once the beetle has gotten into the tree, your tree is doomed and you'll have to take it down. Another problem of apples is the apple maggot. This is a little bitty type of fruit fly. It will bore into and lay its eggs inside the developing fruit. The larva then eat on the apple. It is also called the railroad worm because of its kind of winding path through the piece of fruit. And it makes the fruit, well, pretty much unedible. A way to treat this is again to take care to trap the flies before they actually get into the fruit. There are different sprays that you can use. I'm going to show you something here, if I find it. So for instance, there is an orchard spray. This is a spray that is safe for all your edible orchard plants, so like apples, pears, etc. And it says that it will control fungal diseases. We've talked about those. It will control insects, including the apple maggot, on different types of fruits. So it is probably to your advantage to pick up some type of a spray that is safe for edible plants and spray it as needed. Always follow your directions. It will tell you how to spray according to what you are treating. I mentioned before that keeping things clean is very important. Doing cleanup around your fruit trees, well, around your garden in general, is very important. Always when you have any kind of a bug or a disease process going on, make sure that you throw away the garbage that's underneath your tree, the dead leaves, the branches. Throw that stuff in the trash, not in your compost pile. Another thing to do to keep your trees healthy, of course, is to do some type of a fertilizer program. A healthy tree, just like a healthy person, is able to fight off diseases. And so if you are able to keep your tree healthy, you are going to be able to avoid a lot of these problems that come. Your tree is going to be able to fight them off, and that's very important. Of course, growing trees, whether it's fruit trees, ornamental trees, whatever, they beautify your yard, they make you feel good, and it's great when you get that fruit to eat in the end. And although I've given you lots of things that can go wrong, not everything always goes wrong. In fact, a lot of times people have very, very great success growing fruit trees. I hope that you will be one of those people. This is Jane with Green Biz, wishing you a very good day. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them at the bottom of this video. Thank you.